Ja Morant returned to Memphis in spectacular fashion. They beat the Pelicans, come back from behind, beat the Pelicans with a buzzer beater by Morant. And then two days later, just last night, they beat the Pacers at home in his home debut, 116 to 103. What's been your takeaways in watching Morant these past two games?
Well, I mean, you got what you expected. I mean, he's one of the more exciting players in the sport. And if we didn't have the suspension at the outset of the year, this is the type of Memphis Grizzlies team that you would have saw. One that's going to be competitive against two really good teams in the Pelicans on the road, and then the Pacers at home. And those are two middle of the road teams, right? That you got to be able to beat, and they'd be making a push towards the postseason. So I think what the lesson is that Morant actually could, like, as exciting as it is, the lesson should be that Morant also cost them the ability to get to the postseason because they're too far behind the eight ball. And if they had him the entire season, this is the type of team that they would be. And they'd be right in the mix for a 2 seed like they've been the last couple of years. The Western Conference is stacked, but they'd have a legitimate shot of being right there. And as a result of his behavior issues, they're not. This is a lost season. And hopefully it's something that he learns from in the future. But as far as what he's done on the floor, I don't think we're shocked. Guy was a spectacular player last year when he left, and he's returned a spectacular player.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're 6 games out of the play-in alone. And so that's got to be frustrating. The injuries on top of that, Marcus Smart is on his way back. We'll see what happens with Brandon Clark, but you have no Steven Adams. And that's what I drew from his return. It's like, yeah, Ja. But then you look at, that supporting cast, and Desmond Bane is playing well, Zaire Williams, Triple J as well. And you're like, man, at full strength with him playing at the beginning of the season, we're talking about a different Memphis team. And then, the pregame ceremony, you're looking at Derrick Rose, he's coming out serenading Ja Morant, like, welcome home. The king has returned here. I'm like, he literally almost shot himself in the foot and almost derailed his NBA career.
Yeah, and he derailed the season for the entire team. So the teammates should be happy with him. And CP, I know you do a tremendous job working for us over at Sirius XM NBA Radio. And I'm not sure if you heard the interview that we did with T Morant earlier this week. But T hops on, and I don't know your take on that if you were able to hear it, but I was a little bit stunned and taken aback by the defiance, I guess, that he spoke of. I would have thought that the NBA would have told him, maybe simmer down, don't speak to the media, and if you do speak to the media, maybe come out with a little humbleness. I don't think that he did that, which is kind of shocking, and you can go back on Sirius XM and listen to the entire interview for those that didn't hear it. But he came out and basically said, well, my son didn't do anything criminally wrong. There's been other people in the past that have been the face of the NBA that have done much worse than my son, although he refused to name names. And then he said, my son's job is to win games for the organization and win championships. It's not his job to be the face of the league. So I was kind of taken aback by that attitude. He said that they haven't changed anything about the inner circle. So it kind of gives me pause as to what this is going to be like in the future. And which is too bad because the kid is clearly talented. But I mean, like, I take my cues from my family, my father, right? I go to him for advice. And if this is the type of advice that he's getting, I'm not sure that we're not going to have another issue here in the next couple of years.
I heard the interview, but I didn't hear much accountability. I didn't hear much accountability. And yes, a father's going to have his son's back, right? Like that's automatic. But at the same time, you got to see that there was something a little off here, and which led to him being suspended. I mean, the comment where he said, well, his inner circle is my inner circle, it's as if to say, well, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you had an incident with the Pacers last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Caused by the inner circle. You had the separate gun incidents with the inner circle. Obviously, as T said, he's not a criminal, yes, and maybe he's not necessarily a bad guy as you would, typically profile, but clearly the people that he's hanging around could lead to his demise. And that's why I was like, how is there no accountability? Like, listen, yeah, we got to move a little bit more carefully here after two separate incidents that almost cost him.
Yeah, it's just a different approach, right? Even if you don't think that you're wrong, you come out publicly and you tell the public what they want to hear. Now, I give him, I guess, credit for being honest and giving us his true feelings, but those aren't really the true feelings that I thought we were going to hear. And then just Ja, after he hit the game winner the other day, and again, a fantastic player, saying that he kept the receipts. Well, like the receipts, and I'm sure that you guys were critical of Ja as well, but it wasn't as a player. We knew he was capable
Right,
of doing
right.
stuff that he did upon his return. The only criticism was directed his behavior, and I think it came from a good place where we criticized him because we want him to keep clean. We want him to stay on the floor. We want him to fulfill his potential. We want to watch awesome moments like that. So I don't think the people that were ripping him and criticizing were doing it from a bad place. They were doing it from a place of trying to help. So if he's looking at that as a negative, I also think that maybe he's misconstruing what the media coverage of him has been like.
Absolutely, Justin. Like I agree with all those things. Like when CP and I discussed, Ja's incident this past summer, especially the more recent issue with the IG Live and holding the gun, it's, we want to see him succeed. Like this, very few people get this opportunity to play in the NBA, and we just want to see him being able to thrive at such a high level, right? But it's just kind of weird that his father, getting back to what you stated earlier, like it's kind of weird how the father could have just easily gone out there and be like, you know what? He learned from this incident. We're going to move on. We're going to try to be better. Plain simple. You don't have to say, well, his inner circle is my inner circle and all these other things and just not have accountability. It's just weird. And especially the comment about not saying we didn't sign up to be the face of the league. Well, that's just kind of how it's going to work in the league. If you're one of the best players, you're going to be the face of the league. Everyone's going to want to tune into you. That's how you get all these primetime games. Like if you're on prime time all the time, yep, inadvertently you become a face of the league. And, it may not be that he did anything criminal, but his father should understand that the business side of it is that there's an image the NBA wants to hold. I mean, David Stern, that's something that he worked hard at when
yep,
he was in charge, where it's like, we need to change this image to make this league, essentially a cash cow. We got to have a certain image. That's why he came with the dress code. That's why he came with so many different types of punishments to make sure that there's a fine line of like what is acceptable and what isn't. And for Ja, and not necessarily Ja, but his father, not to understand where the pushback is coming from, where it's like, hey, there's an image we're trying to keep here that's professionalism, right? We want to make sure that we're entertaining to people of all levels, children, adults, and so forth. And it's just, he didn't need to go in that direction, which is just shocking. Hopefully, maybe someone in the Grizzlies organization, someone from PR is like, hey, this is what you should have said, and this is why you should go out there and correct the issues now, just because if Ja's not going to learn from that, then there's the potential, as you already know, that this could get worse or he could be out of the league at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he came on the air with us, but I was also stunned that he even spoke in the first place, even if it was going to be something positive, right, where he was delivering the correct message. So I thought it'd be something like, hey, lay low, let's stay out of the public eye. And going back to the face of the league thing, and him saying it's just his job to win. Well, I would like it for just to be my job to do a good radio show, but it's not. I still have to represent Sirius XM publicly in the appropriate manner. And I've even talked about it with the Thunder and the Clippers recently, right? Yes, the job of Sam Presti in Oklahoma City is to win, but also it's to represent the league in the appropriate way. And then losing games on purpose for 2 years, I thought was a horrible look for the league. And I thought that was wrong. And I thought, listen, the end result is going to be that they have a very competitive team, and that's great. But I thought they did a horrible job representing the NBA for a 2-year stretch. Same thing with the Clippers. Yes, their main job is to win, but by load managing guys for the last 4 years, that was something that was a negative for the NBA. So you have to balance the two, where you do what's best for the product while also trying to win. And Ja's got to understand that as well. He needs to sell the product, represent the NBA in the right way, and yes, win at the same time.
Yeah, comes with the territory as being one of the best in the NBA, and you saw it. I mean, first game he comes back, it looked like he didn't skip a beat. Looked like he's been in regular season mode the entire time, and it's just a shame because it seems like right now, just by how competitive the West is that it could be some wasted effort here. Because as I said, there's 7 games back the Lakers for just the play-in in the 10th. You have a very competitive West between the Timberwolves at the top. You have OKC making noise. We'll see what happens with the Dubs. Sacramento's in the mix, the Clippers. So, I mean, it's not going to, they have no room for error, put it that way. If they're going to make a miraculous climb here, they really have no room for error, whether it's injuries to him and the supporting cast and just their play. But overall, man, you just see how much he just elevates that team and puts everybody in their respective roles. It was nice to see these past couple of games.
No doubt about it. And listen, it's not even just the fans, like his teammates now, like Desmond Bain. There's playoff money that comes with making the postseason. There's the acknowledgement of being, an all-star, which is maybe something Desmond Bain, if they're winning, gets the ability to do. Jaren Jackson going after Defensive Player of the Year, which he won last year. Nobody's given Jaren Jackson Defensive Player of the Year after finishing 11th, 12th in the Western Conference. That's costing him accolades. It's costing him money. Taylor Jenkins, his job security. And I think he's a very good head coach. But, you go through a season, you finish 11th, 12th, and then maybe you have another hiccup in the next 2 or 3 years, and people are looking at the resume and they're going, oh, maybe he's not that good of a head coach. Like, it affects everybody's livelihood, and he's got to understand that.